In other news, he helped to transform his homeland's rhythmic music into a global cultural phenomenon. Tributes are pouring in for the charismatic reggae pioneer and actor Jimmy Cliff, who's died at the age of 81. Here's Emerald Maxwell with a look back at his life and legacy.
Waiting for me when I die.
The film that gave Jimmy Cliff his breakthrough. The Harder They Come tells the story of an aspiring musician looking for work in 1970s Jamaica.
I can sing too, you know, sir. I'd like the chance to make a record.
Everybody want to make a record. You almost ready?
But I have a boss song, you know, sir. This one must sell.
Despite his character's tragic spiral into crime and violence, the musician's struggle to get heard is not too far from Jimmy Cliff's own tale. Born James Chamber into a modest family in Jamaica in 1944, he began writing songs while still at primary school. By 14, he'd moved to the capital and took on his stage name. After his first hit in 1962, he signed with Island Records and helped lead a movement that included such future stars as Bob Marley. He got his starring role in The Harder They Come in the early 1970s. The film became the first major commercial release to come out of Jamaica. Its soundtrack, featuring two of Cliff's most famous songs, Many Rivers to Cross and You Can Get It If You Really Want, took reggae way beyond Jamaica's borders. Jimmy Cliff worked steadily for decades, collaborating with the likes of Wyclef Jean, Sting and Annie Lennox, and reached a new generation with his cover of Johnny Nash's I Can See Clearly Now for the film Cool Runnings. From soul to ska, via funk, punk and folk, he never stopped exploring.
Music has always played an integral part in changing the world. Why? Because music is the universal language. So music does it better than religion or politics.
Nominated for 7 Grammy Awards, Jimmy Cliff won 2, in 1986 for Cliffhanger and in 2012 for Rebirth. In 2010, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness today hailed a true cultural giant whose music carried the heart of our nation to the world.
Well, for more, we're joined now by Jem Aswad, Executive Music Editor at Variety. Jem, thanks so much for being with us on the programme this evening. Firstly, for you, how will Jimmy Cliff be remembered?
Well, he was what we call an OG in reggae. He actually, I wouldn't say he discovered Bob Marley, but he led him to Leslie Kong, who was ultimately a producer for both of them. This was in the early 60s. And really, The Harder They Come was a hit before Bob Marley was. Marley is always associated as being sort of, the pioneer of reggae, but Jimmy Cliff came before in at least 2 examples. So I think that's what it was. He got a lot of his legendary work done early in his career, like most musicians, but it was really all that he needed.
And speaking of Bob Marley then, why did he never reach quite the same heights as his compatriots?
Well, I don't know that most human beings don't have the level of charisma that Bob Marley had. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. There was a lot of sort of messianic following around Marley. And Marley was also, I would say he was better at networking, for lack of a better word. Like, a lot of major white rock stars like Keith Richards and Mick Jagger really were big fans of his. And, his music was more rebellious. Jimmy's was more about feeling good and overcoming obstacles and things like that. Marley was much more rebellious.
And many tributes being paid to him today for helping to transform reggae into a cultural phenomenon. How exactly did he do that, Jem?
Well, it was really through the songs, like they say, those Many Rivers to Cross, The Harder They Come, and You Can Get It If You Really Want It. Those 3 songs, the spirit behind those songs says, there's so much yearning in them, and the film as well. I don't know if you've ever seen the film, but I saw it in college, and my roommate had the soundtrack. So I feel like that's a similar story for a lot of people, at least in the United States. That film, his role in it, and that album, which is largely highlighted with his songs, really was a sort of introduction to the world of reggae for so many people.
And Jem, you're in the US, as you say. What is his legacy in Jamaica. He was awarded the country's prestigious Order of Merit in 2003.
I mean, he is in the very, very top echelons of legendary reggae performers. He was, like I said, an OG.
And he also said that his connection for him with his fans was more important than any honour that he received during his lifetime. Why do you think that was?
Well, I think that's a pretty common sentiment for a lot of musicians. What really matters to them is what their music is doing for their fans, rather than something like an honor. And there may be some cynicism coming with that, in the sense of, like, people sometimes get awards for maybe not the reasons that they're purported to be given for. They can get very political in terms of business and things like that. And that may have been what he was responding to, or it may have just been the natural sentiment. People often say one person coming up to me and saying that this song helped them matters more than a Grammy award or whatever.
And speaking of the political, he wasn't just known for being an actor, for being a singer, for winning all those awards. Talk to us a little bit about how he addressed issues like politics, like poverty, like injustice.
It was usually with positivity. Marley was a lot more confrontational in the things that he said, but there was just, not to say that Marley's music wasn't positive, but Jimmy was just more about, humanity and feeling good, and finding the good in situations, and finding the inner strength to overcome things. Many Rivers to Cross is a song that is applicable to so many situations, and that's why it's been covered so many times.
And how did he influence those musicians who came after him?
Well, it's funny the way it so often works with reggae. What happens is, whenever white musicians go and record in the Caribbean, they think they can play reggae. And there's a lot of subtlety and nuance in reggae. It sounds simple, but it's not. And you can tell that when you hear the kind of terrible things that some white musicians have done with reggae songs. But the influence is very important. A lot of groups incorporated it authentically. The Clash did a decent job with it, not a great one necessarily. There was a British punk group called the Ruts who actually played it extremely well. And a lot of R&B musicians can pull it off. But there have been an awful lot of it, and it's hard to say if that's necessarily a good thing. It's true with black music, with basically every form of black music. But I first heard The Harder They Come when it was covered by Joe Jackson when I was in high school, a white British musician. So I feel like there is ultimately good in it, even if as you get older, you realize, wow, they really didn't know what they were doing.
And do you think, Jem, that his move to the UK was a critical moment for him?
I feel like it was, because Chris Blackwell, who founded Island Records and was as responsible as anyone, quite honestly, for bringing reggae to the world, that's where his base was, even though Chris Blackwell was raised in Jamaica. So I do think it was important for establishing Jimmy Cliff's career, because that's where his first non-Jamaican hits were. In 1969, he had, I think, a number 6 song in the UK. And obviously that established him, and then he could, move to Miami or move to Jamaica or wherever. So it was important for that reason, but he hated living in London. He said that he had never encountered such racism in his life. So it was probably positive for his career, maybe less positive for his personal life.
Jem, we'll have to leave it there for now. We do appreciate your time, though, and for joining us on the programme. That's Jem Aswad, Executive Music Editor at Variety. Well, that's it from us for now. Stay with us, though, for more world news on France 24.